If it's happening at the university level, but it's not being questioned at the university level, so there's no real debate. So how does this ever get corrected? It seems like it has to get out into the world, and then by then the fire is so big, there's not enough hoses to put it out.
That's right. That's actually kind of the way this has worked, is that they've got so many people thinking this way, it's hard to put the fires out. But the answer is not going to be very palatable. The name calling has to lose its credit, not all the way, to some degree. So like you and I were talking about earlier, was it feminism? Was it Black Lives Matter? If somebody calls me a racist, I don't freak out. I stay calm and I say, what do you mean by that? Right? And so they say, oh, well, systems, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm not. There are definitions that say things like there's only racist and anti-racist. There's no such thing as not racist. Like, screw you, I'm not racist.
That is crazy.
Just move on. So
when did anti-racist rear its head? That seems a fairly new expression, but it's getting tossed around like a beach ball at a concert.
It became big just in the last few years off of a couple of these authors like Ibram Kendi and Robin DiAngelo, who dedicate a lot of their work to it. DiAngelo's book that's relevant was 2018, and Kendi's was, I think I have to check, 2019 for his How to Be an Anti-Racist. He has an older one.
This is the same lady that wrote the White Fragility
That
book.
is White Fragility I'm talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
that is from 18.
I mean, she has it's 2018. She has other books that are even crazier, like What Does It Mean to Be White?
Oh, so she's a hustler.
She's a big-time hustler. She has this paper I actually found. Somebody sent it to me the other day. This is a real paper, and it's called something about the racial cray-cray, white neurosis and the racial cray-cray from 2013. It's got these sections like in the paper, introduction or whatever, and then at the beginning of each one, it's like they just make something up, like this weird rant, and then it ends in a poem, and it says that white people and white supremacy cause a racial cray-cray in white people, and then white racial cray-cray causes other people to have to live with racial cray-cray, so they get racial cray-cray too. I'm not making that up. That's real.
White supremacy is another one that's getting chucked around quite a bit lately.
It's because they've changed the definition.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? Some things, and so I'm gonna point out. This is actually from a legislative body, an administrative body set up by the state legislature of Washington in January, called it's Equity Task Force. And you know what they said was white supremacy coming through their mouths as they said it? Keeping a meeting agenda, staying on a schedule. There's a 2017 paper by Allison Bailey that talks about
those
specific things. Those specific things.
Keeping a meeting scheduled?
Yes, a schedule and agenda. So there's actually something that I read a year or so ago because of the schedule thing, that wearing a wristwatch, because that means you care about time and being on time, is white supremacy. White supremacy is believing that the society that white people created, which means science, reason, logic, civility, rule of law, democracy, that's good. That's their definition of white supremacy. So if somebody calls me a white supremacist, once you know that...
But is that all white society? Isn't that Egyptian as well?
I mean not the way they think about it. All they care about is the way that the white Western men following the Enlightenment started to use this to oppress people.
Oh, God. Watch is white supremacy.
Watch is white supremacy. So this Allison Bailey woman has this paper where she literally, the point of the paper is to say anything that disagrees is or anything that disagrees is somebody just trying to keep their privilege. She calls it privilege preserving epistemic pushback. That's a real term. And so in the paper, though, she says that the master's tools in philosophy, that's slavery, right? That's white supremacy. The master's tools that maintain white supremacy are like philosophical soundness, epistemic adequacy, which means knowing what you're talking about, science, reason. Like, that's what they think white supremacy is. Science is white supremacy. That's why you have to redo chemistry and make chemistry woke.
And this is being taught in schools, so people are paying money to learn this.
Correct. And in that legislative entity in Washington, their Equity Task Force, they defined equity. Like, when I say equity, you probably have, what do you think? You think something like equality, something different, a little bit, something, but you have that vague sense of equality. They said it equals disrupt plus dismantle. Tear down the system. And then they also said the point of this body is to set this up. That was their official definition, by the way. And the point of this body is to establish this administrative entity for 50 years for the state of Washington.
Jim, you're hurting my head.
Imagine that you have a store and a shopkeeper's there, and a black customer and a white customer are both in the store at the same time, and the shopkeeper is like goes up to help one person first. So if they go, and this is what critical race theory, this is how it would analyze what happens. So if the shopkeeper goes to the white person first, it would say that's clear racism, white favoritism, and make the black person wait. But if it went to the black person first, it would say it's clear racism because you wanted to get the black person out of the store faster.
Oh boy,
That's literally how critical race theory would operate with that, because
damned if you do.
well, one of the tenets of critical race theory is that racism is ordinary, not aberrational in United States society, and it is not. The question is no longer, did racism take place? For that is to be assumed, but rather, how did racism manifest in that situation? So I quoted Robert DiAngelo for that. So the belief is that racism is in literally every interaction. And it's up to the critical race theorist. That's the critical race theorist's job, is to find it.
It's a very dangerous game because
Most people can't
don't
do
want
it.
to hear that.
I can do it because I actually know what I'm talking about. So when they come back at me, I quote their own literature at them, and usually they don't know their literature as well as I do, because I've read all this crap. I've read a lot of it over and over again. I've read D'Angelo's book twice. I've read,
This is a heavy burden you've got in your head.
Oh, dude, it's not a good place. I mean, I keep trying to tell people are like, oh, you're a grifter, you're trying to No, it's actually, I want to make myself irrelevant by making this go away, and then I want to retire. I think you should take the time to learn who you are. Take the time. It's not easy.
It's not easy, and it's best done through struggle, in
That's
my
right.
opinion.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You have to go wrestle up against some stuff. You have to be told where you're failing. You have to be told where you suck.
Yeah, you have to have a discipline.
Right.
Usually, there's something about doing a thing that lets you know who you are.
I mean, it's not for everybody, so I can't say it, but the martial arts have been great for that for me. They have been for you.
Yeah.
It works for a lot of people.
Some people, I mean, you don't have to do that, though. Running,
Right.
yoga, anything.
Exactly.
But find a discipline, and it's really
Something.
push yourself. When you push yourself, you find out find out where you're going to quit. You find out your shortcomings. You find out where where your demons are, where the skeletons are in your head.
That's right. And, ideally it needs to be something that bounces off of reality.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, if it's just going and reading and writing stuff, that's how you can go pretty far out into la la land.
Right.
So you need to bounce it off reality. I used to say that philosophers I used to work a lot in my garden, and I would say that I suck at gardening, by the way. But philosophers need to get their hands in the soil because you can't lie about it. You feel it, you smell it, it's heavy. I'm from Tennessee, so it's like sticky clay. You can't get it off you. And it's like, and that earth smell is there, and it's like wet, and it's like it's real, and you're sweating, and it's like, you can't, reality won't lie to you.
Right.
And that's where this is so, my answer to this problem is we need to remember that objective principles work, and that we need to defer to reality not lying to us, because we can lie to ourselves all day. We can lie to ourselves and say that Fallon Fox is exactly the same as the people whose heads she literally beat in, and then went on Twitter and bragged about how it was fun to crack that person's skull.
Yeah.
That she derived enjoyment from that. You can go on Tumblr or Twitter and deconstruct your identity and become a completely different person. But reality doesn't lie to you. It never lies to you, right? The only thing that lies is your lived experience, your interpretation of your lived experience of reality. So I think that people need to do that. Do something hard. Try to build a thing. And when it falls down, because it will, try again. I tried getting into blacksmithing for a little while, a year or so ago. I made a couple of little knives, really little knives, because I only had a little tiny forge. So they're really little, embarrassingly little. But I was just fooling around, But the steel doesn't lie.
Right.
And when you drop the steel, like I did one time, and it's yellow, whatever it touches catches on fire. And that doesn't lie either, right? So it's you have to. I think people need more reality. They need to unplug.
Yeah, that's a problem with just thinking, right? Just thinking, and then also expounding upon those thoughts in front of other people that are also just thinking, and you're all doing it together. You need some sort of a tangible physical discipline to go along with that.
Right.
That's sort of tempers you.
That your education, whether it's school or whether it's training or whatever it is worth what you can build with it. It's not worth anything more than what you can build. So if you go to trade school and you end up building some great business empire, your education was good. And if you go to university and get a PhD and do a couple postdocs and all you can do is whine and complain and you can't do anything productive, your education wasn't good. And it doesn't, see, you immediately remove like these weird elite credentialing things from that. It's what can you do with it that proves whether or not it was good in the world. And I think we need to kind of remember, it's like a pragmatic thing, right? What can you do with this?
Right. And some people, they can only teach the same thing that they learned.
Right.
And that becomes a problem because then you're so indoctrinated in the system and you're just sort of perpetuating the same shit that got you to where you are and just keep making it more and more significant, more and more important in terms of the way you describe it to people.
Right. So one of the big movements now is to take tests out of our schools.
Yeah, what's that about?
Well, they don't want a test that can show that their stuff failed. Right? They say that's not what they say, but that's what it is.
They also don't want competition between students.
Exactly. They want to in particular, the test scores don't come out equal across all identity groups. Therefore, the test must be racist.
Racist towards Asians.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah,
apparently.
they're the master race when it comes to school.
Yeah, we all got to practice our Mandarin if this keeps up. I actually think that the principles we've laid down, for example, in our country, work. Let's defer to the evidence. Let's defer to a rule of law, knowing that we have a democratic process where we can remake the law as we need to, hopefully incrementally and not through some stupid revolution, and that can work. So I have to be hopeful because I know the thing can work if we're willing to kind of stand up for it and remember it.